Hi and welcome to Azure Data Explorer Shorts. I'm Vincent from the Azure Data Explorer team, and today we're going to talk about update policy. When explaining what an update policy is, I like to draw a parallel to an ETL, an extract, transform, and load operation. This is usually done in a macro environment with a tool such as SQL Server integration services, where you extract data from, let's say, an ERP database and load it into a data warehouse while transforming it in between. Just for illustration, let's say we take a customer data and we transform it by maybe changing its ID to match like a canonical identifier in the data warehouse. That's the transformation we're doing. This is more an on-premise example, and that would be a cloud example with something like Synapse SQL Pool and Data Factory doing the orchestration or data movement. Now that we have this metaphor in mind, let's look at an update policy. So an update policy is pretty similar, but at a micro level inside Azure Data Explorer. So let's say we have a source table and a destination table. And in the source table, we might have a customer. And again, we want to transform that customer, changing the ID into something canonical or some other transform and send it to a destination table. So it's not between systems, it's all within ADX. And that transformation is going to be done by a query so that the transform customer is the result of a query on the original customer. That is the concept. Let's look at it in practice. So here I sit in an empty database. I'm going to create a table, call it my logs, and I have a single column called text type string. Very simple table, and I'm going to append some data in there. So if I look at my table, I have those two rows I just inserted. And you can notice that each row contains kind of two data items, like a number and then some text. And this is what I would like my update policy to extract and drop into another table. So I'm going to create that other table right now. I'm going to call it my structured logs. It will have an error code, type integer, and an error text column. So we talked about having a query doing the transformation. So I'm going to create a stored function to parse the logs. And it's going to take the original table, my logs, apply the parse operator on the column text, capture error code, and when it sees a pipe, it's going to capture error text. And I'm going to just project error code and error text. This is my function. If I try my function, see, it does parse the original data. Great, so far nothing new. Let's introduce the update policy. Update policy is defined on the target table. So I'm going to alter the target table, my structure logs, alter the policy update, so update policy. And actually we pass a JSON object or an array of JSON objects. And in this case, executed too fast. Let's change it again. I want to enable that policy. I want the source of the policy to be my logs, so the original table we defined. The query I want to execute is parse logs. That's the function I just defined. And finally, I want that policy to be transactional. So execute that again. Now let's see if it works. If I look at my structure logs right now, it's empty. So nothing happens when I define the policy per se. But if I go and insert some data in the original table in my logs, actually, you can already see something funny happening. You see that there are two extents have been created, one for the original table and one for the target table, with each having one row. And I can check that by looking my logs. It now has this last bit here, this last row with 75. And if I look at my structure logs, you can see that the query has run and the data has been transformed and inserted into the target table. And this is what update policy does. This is the simplest example I can come up with, but you could imagine that with that tool, that construct, we can build sophisticated transformation mechanism within Azure Data Explorer. And that's it. That's what an update policy is. It takes data from a source table into a destination table and transform it using a query. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Otherwise, follow us on those social media. And until next time.